Hi, so would you like to give us a brief introduction about yourself, what you do, and your background?
Sure. So my name is Fernando Kawall. I am an international student from Brazil, and currently I am an RF front-end characterization engineer at Qualcomm. So I pretty much test 4G and 5G chips.
Awesome. Um, what was your major?
So I came in into IVC as an electrical engineering student. So I plan on transferring to pursue a bachelor's in electrical engineering, but I was also really interested in astrophysics. So I actually applied for different schools for different majors, but at the end, I actually decided to pursue electrical engineering at UC Irvine.
Awesome. What was your transfer GPA at that time?
My transfer GPA was 3.5. While I was in IVC, I actually took classes in Saddleback as well. Um, I pretty much got all A's and B's, but then I got one C, and that really damaged my GPA. But I was still happy to be able to bring it back up to 3.5.
Yeah, C ruins a lot. So which universities did you apply and what were the results?
So I applied for only four universities, mostly because I wanted to stay within California. So I applied for UC Berkeley, UC Santa Cruz, um, UCI, and UC San Diego. So I got admitted into three of those, which were UCI, UC Santa Cruz, and UC San Diego. And I guess my GPA was a little bit too low for UC Berkeley. Um, so overall, I was in between UCI and UC San Diego because UC San Diego, I actually got into astrophysics, and that was very interesting as well.
Mhm.
So at the end, when I was deciding, since my parents don't really know anything about engineering or physics, I actually asked Professor Sim from UCI or from IVC, sorry, and he was the one who helped me choose electrical engineering, mostly because he explained that electrical engineering is more hands-on, where astrophysics would be more theoretical, and I would have to probably go to graduate school, to continue studying and also being part of a research if I chose astrophysics. So at the end, I had a goal in mind that I wanted to go to UCI and study electrical engineering, but somehow still be able to relate to astrophysics.
Mhm.
And at the end, I was able to do that because I joined a research group in UCI called the Ariana Collaboration, and they are a physics experiment in Antarctica, trying to detect these very high energy particles called neutrinos. And I did electrical engineering for that research. So I was the only engineering student, both grad and undergrad, in that research group. So I ended up learning a lot and still being able to work on an astrophysics research while being an electrical engineering student.
As an international student, like what would be the challenges like that you face starting from college and at university and like how you overcame it?
So just to give a little bit more background on myself, when I moved from Brazil in 2012, I actually came to the US as a professional skateboarder.
Oh.
So my goal was not really to study, although that was my second option, right? Because I was already professional in Brazil and I came to California to pursue that career, but I ended up getting injured. So I decided to study to do my second option.
um,
But while I was skating, I had recently graduated high school, so my parents kind of obligated me to still go study English while I was skating in the US. And that's how I got into IVC because I was actually studying English in the English school where the current International Student Center is, um, which used to be called Kaplan. So I came as a professional skateboarder. I was studying English in IVC, and then I got injured, and I was like, you know what? I might as well apply for IVC since I'm already at the last level of the English course, and I could just take a simple, you know, not simple, but an easier English test and apply for IVC without having to take the TOEFL or the SAT. So then I applied for IVC. I got in 2013. Um, I was very lost in the beginning because I had no idea what it would be like. I had no idea I had to transfer to a university. Um, and I had no idea how the American educational system even worked.
Mhm.
You know, because in Brazil, you're not really allowed to pick your classes. You have a set curriculum, and
Mm,
every semester you take the courses that they give you. And actually, per semester, you take 12 courses concurrently. So it's very different than how the educational system in the US works. So that was probably like one of the biggest challenges in the beginning, was just adapting to the American educational system. But I ended up doing really well because I realized that if you work hard and you study for your classes, you're valued. The professors value, the university also value, like once you apply, to transfer. So overall, it was a really, really good thing because as long as I applied myself into studying, I would be rewarded.
mhm,
So I think that that's one of the ways that I overcame this challenge, by working hard and studying hard and trying to immerse myself into the American culture. So even though I was studying, I was taking only 12 units every semester, so I could still skateboard. um, but I feel that one of the biggest challenges for me, by coming, from a different country where people really care about each other and people are very warm, and they really like to express the way they feel, was the fact that every class that I took, I was taking with people from different majors and with different goals. So they would just go to class, take the class, and move on. So it was very hard for me to make friends in school because there was no time where we would take the same classes, or we would all go, and have like free time together, because people would take a course and then they would leave and go to their next class and go to the next class. And just overall, it was a little bit challenging for me to make friends. But I would say that towards my last year, all the math and the physics courses that I took actually were with the same people, because everyone wanted to transfer in the same semester or
mhm.
in the same year. So we would all take the same required courses. Um, like, for example, physics 4A, 4B, 4C, math, 3A, 3B, um, math 4A, 24, and 26. I pretty much took with
Yeah.
all the same people. So then, in that sense, it was better,
Oh,
but I feel like it was a big challenge in the beginning, and even in my writing 1B course, I actually, or writing two, right, in IVC, um, I wrote about how the American educational system actually creates this imbalance in, like, how people interact. And it's mostly for community college, I would say. But even in, if I went straight to a 4-year university, I feel like in the first few years it would still be the same, because they're still taking general ed classes and taking all lower division math with a lot of different people. So it's a little bit hard, to make friends. But I guess overall I was still able to overcome that, even after I transferred to UCI. So I guess the reason why I transferred to UCI was mostly because it was still in Irvine. I had already made a big change in my life by living by myself and moving from a different country. So I just felt like staying within Irvine would be an easier transition,
mhm,
into going into like a university. I would say that the biggest difference is that the professors in the universities some of them don't really care that much. So you have to teach yourself a lot. You really have to be, the you really have to focus on yourself and how you can succeed compared to like community college where the professors are always there and they really care about like you. I'm not saying professors in universities don't care, but I guess like that's one of the main difference that I saw. um so I went to UCI. I actually had a really bad two first quarters. I failed two classes because I got injured. I actually torn my ACL on my left knee, so I couldn't really go to class, and they didn't allow me to drop the courses. So I failed two classes. I was put in academic probation for 1 year and a half, which was very, very challenging.
Yeah.
But I really focused in studying. I actually focused in trying to be part of a research group, and that's how I actually got into my research group. Um, and I did really well. At the end, I had two internships. I interned at a electron beam welding company where they use electrons to actually weld two metal parts together. Like super interesting. Um, I also intern at Skyworks, which is also like an RF, like a radio frequency chip company. So they build cell phone chips. And
Also,
the only reason why I got that internship was mostly because of the research that I did and all the things that I learned through research, which were way more advanced than what any student would take as an undergraduate student in UCI. Um, and because of that, because I was also involved in the school, I think that that was another thing that really helped me get back on track and really succeed as a student was to join different organizations within the School of Engineering. Um, so I became an engineering ambassador, which is pretty much a role where you talk to prospective students and parents about the School of Engineering and why they should pick UCI engineering as a major. So that was really cool. I learned a lot. I was very involved within the undergraduate student affairs office. So with all the different counselors, all the different directors, the dean, the vice dean. So I became really good friends with everyone. And I guess that really made me also succeed in my studies, even though I failed at the beginning. So my internship together with my involvement in the school helped me actually become the electrical engineering student of the year in UCI. So I guess every year there's like 4,000 students in the School of Engineering, and they only pick one from each major, so only five students. And I actually won that award. So
awesome.
it was really beneficial for me because it proved not only to myself but to my parents and my friends that
Mhm.
it's okay to fail. I failed in school. Like I got a C and I couldn't get into Berkeley, which was very sad because I really wanted to go to Berkeley.
Yeah.
But at the end, I felt like it was better to go to UCI. And then I failed the two first classes, had a low GPA, was put on academic probation. But at the end, I joined a research group, joined the School of Engineering program, and learned a lot. I was the senior design team leader for my senior design project. Had two internships and still was awarded as electrical engineering student of the year. And at the end, there was one event that I spoke to in UCI, and the previous president from IVC, Glenn Rockmore, he actually saw me speaking there as an IVC alumni student, and
Oh,
invited me to be the alumni um, ambassador for the new IVC UCI engineering program. So for the past 3 years, I actually spoke during their open house, which is pretty much when they bring all you know, the students and parents that want to join this, engineering program between UCI and IVC. So and then I just pretty much spoke to all of them about my experience and how much IVC prepared me to succeed as a student in UCI through the interactions with the professors and also all the classes that I took, which at the end, I would say I learned a lot more within those professors than in any other class I took. Like some of them, like Professor Alex Sim, Professor Sanjay Gupta, those two professors really impacted my way of thinking and even my choices on what school to go to more than my parents,
Mhm.
you know. So so yeah, I graduated in 2019, so 1 year ago from UCI. It was a little bit challenging as an international student to find a job within my field
Yeah.
because there's a lot of restrictions depending on what you focus on. Like I would say, as an international student, if someone choose to do like aerospace engineering,
No.
it's almost impossible to find a job
Yeah.
because all those jobs require government clearance. And the same way I chose a field which is long range communications like radio frequency, circuit design, and that also requires government clearance because all these technologies can either be applied for cell phones or for military applications.
Uh,
So it's like towards the end of my UCI, degree, all of my friends, they because we were all doing the same courses, which is like, RF antennas and microwaves and circuit design. So all of them graduated with a job, like either at Raytheon or NASA or Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, like all these big like military and aerospace companies because this field is like it's in a need for those people, but I couldn't find a job because I was a foreign student. So it was very, very challenging. Like, so in that sense, I was sad that I couldn't continue in my field, but I got a job at Siemens Mobility in Sacramento. So I was a test engineer for trains. I know it's very different, but that was also really cool because I got to learn the two ends of the spectrum in terms of electrical engineering, like microelectronics and then macroelectronics, dealing with like 1,500 volts and 600 amps. It's really really cool, and I got to live in Chicago for 7 months as the test lead for the new Chicago Metro project. So that was also a really eye-opening experience, just being in the real world and having to set up meetings and talk with the customer, talk with the people in Germany, talk with the people in Sacramento. Um, so that was really cool. But I had a feeling that I was missing something in my life because that was not what I studied for, to work with trains. It's a huge industry and there's a lot of opportunities, but I missed working with chips. So this year I applied for Qualcomm and I was really happy that I even got a job during this whole, coronavirus pandemic.
oh,
Um, yeah, so currently, as I mentioned, I am like an RF front-end characterization engineer, which in easier terms, I'm like a 5G chip test engineer. And the job that I have, it's actually a master's degree level job. Everyone else besides from me have a master's degree in my department.
oh
But
wow.
I guess that was all because of the research that I did. So I really encourage anyone who will listen to this to try to be as involved as possible, both in community college or in a university. Talk to the professors, do research. Because in research, you learn things that you won't learn in classroom that are way far more important than just the theoretical knowledge. So
Amazing.
yeah.
Amazing story. Yeah, I really relate to the first part of like not being able to find friends. Like usually you go to high school and make friends, but like college is like everyone's with their part-time jobs and commitments and like in and out and like yeah. So basically, I get it. So awesome, amazing story. And then
Thank you.
also, I would like to talk about like in terms of internship, like what tips do you have for college students who are looking for internships to differentiate themselves and like compete with 4 years university students for these positions?
That's a good question because when I was in IVC, it was somewhat hard for me to get an internship. I actually did not have an internship when I was in community college. I would say I had an opportunity, but again, because I was a foreign student, I couldn't apply.
Man.
There's this physics professor in IVC, Alex Sim, and he actually is related to NASA because I guess he works at NASA. Um, so everyone who took his three courses, physics 4A, 4B, and 4C, and did well, are were pretty much guaranteed an internship at NASA. I guess now with like these newer programs, it's a little bit easier. But my recommendation is to look online for the internships that they are interested in, even if it will be in like 1 year or 2 years. So try to prepare early on and see what the field that they want to work with requires. So for example, if you will do, computer science, what are the critical languages that you have to know?
Mhm.
And what are some of the requirements that these companies have to get that internship? So then you can prepare on your own. Or even let's say you take CS36, right? Like C programming in IVC. You can actually talk to the professor and say, hey, is there anything that I can learn beyond your class? Any projects that you can help me with? Can I do research with you? Just or maybe tips on what like kinds of programs to write in order to be a more experienced person. So I'd say maybe that would be one of the suggestions that I would give to any student or any international student that is looking for an internship.
Thank you. Yeah, it's it's harder for international students. That just sucks. And like, so any tips regarding resume and job interviews, especially for like international students? Like I've seen like some friends like who got accepted for their jobs, but then like they withdraw it because they found out that they're an international student or something like that. So it's just it's hard for international students.
I would say in terms of like resume, there are many things that in my opinion make it like like a good resume. The first thing is of course where did you go to, like what's your goal,
Hmm.
or your objective. The second thing is what classes did you take, because this is an important thing that like any person who is trying to hire you wants to know. It's like, did you take circuits 1, did you take circuits 3, did you take electromagnetics, like what did you take that, so then we can understand better besides from your experiences, right? um, and then list all the different experiences that you had, and it's really challenging when you have zero experience in a job market, right? But this is why I suggested to like try to do different projects even on your own, even if you look up online like a project and you actually do it, because it's more important the skills that you have than, I would say, like the theoretical knowledge, because anyone can teach you what you have to do in your job. Even for me now, I learn every day because I don't have a master's degree. So I have a lot of lack in terms of theoretical knowledge, but that's easy to fix. But it's the things that I learned, through research and through my experiences in my previous work, how to use certain softwares, how to interpret data, how to plot data. I think like these skills are more important. But yeah, it's hard for international students. It really is, because at the end of the day, when you say that you are international, depending on the job that you apply to, it's an automatic no,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, I would say connections are the most important thing in life. So just making connections with professors, because they can actually refer you to either a good company, like write you a good letter of recommendation,
Yeah.
even for a job, that is actually also doable. But also tell you about different opportunities to do research, even in community college nowadays. There are opportunities to do research within the STEM field. Um, Now, in terms of interviews, I guess it depends on the major that you pick. But for me specifically, all my interviews are extremely technical. So there's like in terms of engineering, usually how it works is you talk to the hiring manager on the phone the first time, and then you actually move into talking to the HR person who's gonna make you the appointment for the technical interview. And the technical interviews usually are like 5 to 6 people and 1 hour per person. So you have like a 5, 6 hour interview, either in person or now through Zoom, you know, where they ask you everything that you can think of in terms of technical questions. Like my interview at Skyworks, everyone asked me to go on the board, draw a circuit, and solve the circuit and answer very technical questions. So it's hard to prepare. I would say that the way you can prepare is by being truthful on your resume and really telling them what you know. Don't make anything up, because if you make anything up and put any lies on your resume and they ask you for it, it's an automatic like rejection, you know. Um, and even if you put that you did a project on your resume, you need to know that project when you have the interview, because they might ask you, "Oh, tell me about this project. What did you do? How did you solve the problem?" You know. So it's kind of hard to prepare, but I would say it's it's actually a good thing to be an international student because they have more diversity. You know, they come from a different background, they speak a different language, they succeed in a different country, and they are willing to adapt, which I think like it's, you know, so like these are some of the main skills that, you know, with all respect, Americans don't have. People that are born and raised in the US and always went to the same school and never had to step out of their comfort zone, never had to learn new skills, you know. This is why so many international students actually have, you know, these high paying technical jobs nowadays. Like all the companies that I work at, the higher people are all foreigners,
Oh wow.
you know. Yeah, because and even here where I work, the majority of the people are foreigners because they have a set of skills and a mentality and a way of solving problems that it's hard to beat. You know, it's hard to actually find someone better. So, yeah, like just going back to your question, I would say be honest on your resume. You know, try to list all the experiences that you have and the classes that you took. Make connections. Talk to all your professors, to anyone that can one day help you. And on the interview side, prepare by studying all the sub, like if you're going to apply for a circuit design, you know, position, make sure to like review all the key concepts and like how to solve a circuit, because they might ask you to solve a circuit. And the same thing for, let's say, CS. You have to really know about the language that you're going to apply to, right? If you're actually applying for like, let's say, a Python job, you need to know all the key concepts from Python. And the fact that you know a lot about C, for example, might not help you because you need to know whatever you're applying to. And what I found is that the description on the like online when you apply really reflects what they're looking for in a candidate. So you can also teach yourself those concepts. This is how I got this job because a lot of the concepts I never really learned in school. But I looked at the requirements, I went online, I taught myself the math, I taught myself the theory, and I got the job because that's what they are looking for is like, can you teach yourself? Can you be independent? Even though you'd never studied this, can you learn on your own? You know, so I think these are some of like the most important skills that people are looking for in the job industry.
Awesome, amazing. That's really cool. So yeah, I have like other questions regarding the extracurricular activities you participated in IBC and like
Sure.
how it helped you like in university.
That's a good question. I would say that the only thing that I was really involved with was mostly skateboarding.
Important.
Um, I wasn't really involved in IVC that much, maybe because I felt a little bit isolated, being like a foreign student,
Yeah.
even though IVC is full of foreign students,
Yeah.
way more than Saddleback, you know. But I feel like skateboarding really taught me like a very important thing, which is like a problem will be a problem as long as you see it as a problem.
Hmm.
So anything in life, any issue that you have, if you keep thinking, oh, this is so bad, why did this happen to me? It will be bad. But once you see it from a different perspective and you actually understand that you can learn from the problem, everything changes. So I think like skateboarding really taught me that. When I had all these injuries and I couldn't study and I lost the whole year in UCI, I was in academic probation. But at the end, if I did not go through that, I wouldn't be where I am today, you know? So I think it was necessary. And I think skateboarding also taught me that it's okay to fail. Most people fail, but it's the way that you get out of it that really makes you like a better person, And I feel like a lot of foreign students, with all respect, like mostly Asian students that come from a very rigorous um, educational system where you cannot fail. They feel really bad
Yeah.
if they get even like a A minus or a B plus. They get really sad, but it's okay. It's okay because in the real life you will fail, you will commit mistakes, but if you learn with them and you see it in a different perspective, then you can actually like become a better person. Um, so I think that this came from skateboarding, but it also came from all my experiences, throughout college as well. For the fact that I was never the best person to take exams. I graduated with in UCI with a 3.1 GPA. And if you ask people, above a 3 is good in engineering because it's very tough,
Yeah.
and the way that they grade in university is different. It's based on a bell curve. So only 10% of the people will get A's, or it's like, let's say you get 80% on your exam, but everyone else gets 80%, that's a C,
Oh.
even though you got 80% on the exam. That's at like a C plus or a B minus. And then it's all based on like standard deviation and the bell curve. So in that sense, I did really well, in the classes, but that was not how I got the job. It was mostly because of the other things that I did, participating you know, in the engineering school and giving a lot of talks and meeting people and doing research, doing my senior design project. I was published in two UCI magazines talking about my story, in the electrical engineering year magazine, and also on the dean's report, which is also like every year they talk about it. I was the youngest electrical engineering alumni to be featured in the electrical engineering magazine.
Also.
And I feel that's because I was involved,
Hmm.
because I was passionate about what I was doing. I was doing research. I had a job. I was electrical engineering student of the year, and at the end was not because of my grade. So it's like a lot of people are focused on, oh, if I don't have a 4.0, I failed, you know. And that's not true, because you can have a 4.0 but have zero experience.
Yeah.
No one will want to hire you. Maybe they will, but I would say that I am far more successful than the people in my class that had, perfect GPAs. So I think like international students in general should also try to see it that way. That it's far more important to be involved and have connections and learn things that are useful for the industry, you know, compared to just having a 4.0 GPA, because that's how they come with that mindset, you know? And like a lot of people, like a lot of my IVC friends, they went to Berkeley or went to UCLA, are less successful than me today, with humbly speaking, like not trying to brag or anything. I'm just saying it's like it's all about what you do
Mm-hmm.
um
Yeah.
in school.
Yeah, that's really important. I feel like it was like talking about me too, because I came from like an Asian country, and like we focus mainly on academics, and like getting here, like I didn't know anyone, had no connections basically, and then like I mainly grinded on my academics while missing out on the activities and like involvement in campus and experience like that, which is actually really important than academics in my opinion, like in terms of experience, like that's like how you like get skills and like obtain like real, like soft skills, maybe like technical skills, like real solving real problems, like working on projects. Like that's what jobs are mainly looking for. And like at times, like grades are like not the most important thing, although maybe for transfer. But
Yes, like I would say that why in community college is a little bit harder because grades are the most important thing, right? If if you have a grade below a 3.5, I would say it's really hard to get into good school.
mhm.
I mean, it depends where you apply to, right? But Berkeley for electrical engineering required a 3.8, and I would say yes, I could probably have gotten into Berkeley, but I really think that if I was in Berkeley, I wouldn't be as successful as I am,
Oh.
because of the pressure and because of just how things work. I think like I don't know, this is just how I think, but if you go to a really really prestige school
Mm-hmm.
and you are a medium student, it's worse than if you go to a less prestige, not medium school, but a less prestige school and be the top student.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I went to UCI and UCI is great. UCI is like one of the best universities, one of the best public universities nowadays, you know. And I would say I would be or I was way more successful than if I went to UC Berkeley. This is just how I think,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
So it's all about like what you do with your experience. But being in community college, yes, grades are important, but once you transfer, you know, you should try to join like a research group as soon as possible, talk to the professors, try to get as many internships as possible because that really helps, you know. I mean, I say that I would be less successful mostly because in terms of electrical engineering, I would say the field itself it's really hard, you know. And then if in UCI it was already really hard
Mhm.
in terms of the grades and actually being within the top like 10% student, for me at least, I think it would have been really hard to be within the top 10 at UC Berkeley or let's say UCLA, um, in schools where only literally like the top students get in, you
Yeah.
know,
I
or
understand.
the students that have the best grades.
I
So
understand.
it's very competitive in terms of like grades, you know.
It's very
But yeah, but I would say that now that I have a lot of experience in what I do, I do want to go to graduate school. And the only thing that really helped me choose that is because I did research. Because once you actually want to go to graduate school, you need to know what you want to do, you know? And research experience and job experience can really like help you find that path. So I do plan on getting a master's degree,
Oh, awesome.
um, either in UC San Diego, because I live in San Diego and where I work is like 5 minutes from UC San Diego,
Mhm.
or apply for either UC Berkeley, UCLA, or maybe some of the Ivy League schools. I don't know yet, but because currently I have a good paying job, I am in a good situation.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, school in general for foreign students is really expensive.
That is expensive.
um, so graduate school is also really expensive. So then I also need to consider financially, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I guess the best option would be to get to into UC San Diego and work part time or study part time and work full time, just get a master's in a little bit longer time, but while still working.
Yeah. Aside from like the technical skills, like what are some of the like soft skills that you accumulated and like tips and advice to develop these?
Don't be shy to ask questions. I think that that's like one of the most important things I learned is that there's no such thing as a dumb question. Even if you think that, that's not true. Because a question is a question, and if you don't understand, it's good to ask. Um, a lot of times when I'm at work here, I don't fully understand how things work, but I'm not shy to ask someone who does. Be like, hey, this is what I understand, but why is this happening? And they will explain you because this is the culture that they really value, at least here in Qualcomm. It's like we are always here to help, always open to answer questions, and um, I think like that's one of the most important things that I learned is like it's okay to ask questions. The other skill that I learned is how to communicate. How to put it in words what you think and what are your goals and how you're going to attack your goals. Make it verbal. You know, um, every engineering major in UCI at least needs to take a class that is called Engineering 190W, which is upper division writing. And in that class, you need to give like four speeches in front of the whole class about a technical subject that you choose. And you need to write not in a very technical way, but you need to write like a 20-page essay on that topic over 3 months, right? But you do an initial speech about how like what you're gonna write about, what's your goal, and then you do a mid like quarter speech and then a final speech about what you found. And that was really challenging for me because I actually had a little bit of stage fright. I would get nervous speaking in front of a lot of people and presenting my ideas and talking coherently, not stuttering, you know. So I think like that was one of the most important things that happened to me because when you go through an interview, when you talk in front of a group or in front of your team, you need to be able to present your ideas clearly, and be able to communicate and not be afraid of like say something wrong. So I think like that's something that everyone needs to learn pretty well. And if there's an opportunity to take a communications class, take it because you will benefit not only you but any international student who take it will benefit from it. And I know that you know a lot of foreign students have accents and a lot of foreign students are shy to speak because they're afraid that people will not understand them. That's a reality.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like a lot of people that I work with and a lot of people that I studied with had a lot of accents, and it's okay. No one needs to be shy about that. And I think taking a communications course, like a speech course, where you have to talk in front of everyone and present your ideas, can really give you a good skill whenever you take an interview. And people will see that. That if you're a person that can relate your ideas and talk to the team and be very like very outgoing in terms of like how you think, that also can benefit you.
That's awesome. Yeah, public speaking is like very important. What are like some of the key insights that you gained over time in the industry and or like the do's and don'ts or like can be anything else that you would like to share to people who just started out in the industry?
Be nice to everyone. um, make a lot of connections. You never know who can help you, you know, even now or in the future. I would say be respectful to everyone independent of their position in the company. Everyone from the cleaning lady to the president, everyone is equal and everyone deserves the same amount of respect. So I would say That's something very important for me, at least, and that's how I treat everyone equally. Um, Another thing is be transparent.
Mhm.
So express how you feel and express your ideas. And if you see that there's something wrong, tell someone. Don't. That's another thing. It's like it's very important to think about your ethics. You know, the class I took also taught me a lot about ethics. That it's like if there's something wrong, you need to report it. And if there's something like a way that you can benefit over someone that's not ethical as well in the job industry, take someone else's position or like try to screw someone else over you, because that doesn't create a healthy environment to work. Um, I feel like every company is different, but at least where I work, I feel very, very welcomed and I feel very easy to do whatever I want to do. They're very open in terms of the ideas that I have. The work schedule is pretty easy as long as you like do your work, you know, you can do your own schedule. So I guess it depends, but I think interpersonal communication and interpersonal um, relations is like one of the most important things in the industry,
Mhm.
because in reality, no one will ever be prepared for their job by just studying. You will never use 100% of what you learned in any job that you take. In fact, you will learn how to do the job in the job, but the way that you communicate and the way that you have a relationship with everyone, that will set your path inside the company, you know. So so yeah.
Yeah, that's really important. So like any other topics that we haven't touched upon that you would like to share?
Mm, I don't know. I would say I'd say that it's hard to be an international student,
Mhm.
but again, it all depends how you see it, right? Because most international students have a lot more to give than what they think, you know. So I think as like a final point, the most important thing that any international student should do is to, of course, focus on the academics, but also trying to gain as much experience as they can in their career path or even school path. Be involved. I think being involved is it's like the most important thing is like be involved in your school, be involved in clubs, be involved like in research, be involved in your job. Don't go just work and go home. Like try to actually learn more and see what you can do more and always look forward. Always like try to grow as a person. Any international student should like think about that. But I think that just being involved will open up a lot of doors, even if you don't think that it will. Like maybe I could be right or wrong, but I would say like by you joining like this group and you talking to me, like that also will open more doors for you, or even the people that you are with, right? You might not think about it now, but it can, you know. So just being involved and trying to get out of your comfort zone, I think that's the most important thing.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I'll stop the recording.